Hey there, Gilmore Girls fans and other Phoenix Sister fans. We haven't gotten around to our Gilmore Sisters a Rant Podcast episodes for a while. Kelly and I's schedules have not lined up. So I'm just going to do a quick solo Minisode. So those of you who only listen for Kelly's takes, sorry, you have to deal with me this week. La 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 la. Gilmore Sisters.
Gilmore Sisters is a Phoenix Sisters cosplay production and is hosted by the Cereal Box Network. Pokeballs by Crayle is your one-stop shop for handmade magical creations that celebrate all the Pokemon universe has to offer. Available on CrayleVanest.com, that's CrayleVanest.com, and possibly coming to a con near you.
Minisode. I'm just gonna say it. Like I have to disagree with a different article I read on the internet. I've been thinking about this for 3 days. All right, so I read a lot of ScreenRant articles, like a lot, and anytime they have a headline about Gilmore Girls, I'm just like, okay, I gotta click that, even if I think I already know what they're gonna say because I've read a lot of ScreenRant and watched a lot of Gilmore Girls. I'm like, okay, I have to click on it. And this one was about how Luke has flaws. And, they made some valid points, all right, about how he's got a bad temper, he's a bad communicator. Even some of the more controversial ones, like, it's not controversial, right, to say that Luke Danes has a temper. But even when they said, like, sometimes Luke's stepping in like a father figure for Rory was actually inappropriate and unwelcome. One of their examples was Luke coming in and yelling at Rory as if he has anything to say about her 20-year-old dating life at Emily's wedding, the vow renewal thing, right? They made some good points, okay? But one that I don't agree with at all, just no, was they said that Luke was too mean to the other townsfolk. And they were like, it's easy to not take them seriously, that the people in the town do whimsical, weird stuff, but Luke grew up there all his life and he should have been more patient with them and he was too mean about it. And I have one example that tells you, no, actually Luke was not too mean. And my example is Pierpont the gnome. All right. So Luke was protective of Jess when people started saying that Jess was having attitude and adjustment problems when he first moved to Stars Hollow. He was like, of course he is. He is a teenage guy having some problems. Like, back off of him, give him some space. Until Babette says he took Pierpont. And Luke's like, who's Pierpont? And she's like, Pierpont, my gnome. And he doesn't say anything, okay, to Babette about how weird it is to name the gnome, about how it's not a big deal to lose your gnome. It's her gnome. She's attached, and Luke takes it seriously. When he confronts Jess about it, he says Pierpont will go back in his yard. He doesn't blink when Babette says, sometimes you go outside and you feel like you can just hear their little voices talking about how much she misses Pierpont the gnome. And Luke takes that very seriously. In fact, I don't think Luke gives Babette or Miss Patty crap about any of their town stuff the entire show. They want to eat insane amounts of cream of wheat to make their voices sound rougher for karaoke night. He's like, heck yeah, okay. Says nothing to them about it. Now, the examples that the ScreenRant article that I'm ranting back at right now for Luke being too mean that they used were Kirk and Taylor. All right, I'm not going to get too much into Luke's relationship with Taylor. That could be like a non-minisode. That could be its own full entire episode about like how you do or don't respond to someone who's trying to exert control over your life and whether or not you think Taylor goes too far as town selectman in doing that or not. I'm going to leave that one alone. Even if you do think that Luke is too mean to Taylor, that's its whole own thing. The ScreenRant article said he was too mean to, like, all the townsfolk, alright? I don't think Kirk belongs in that category at all. He has some really barbed back and forths with Kirk, but when Kirk wants to go on a date with Lulu, Luke makes it clear that he thinks Kirk is being silly when he wants to practice his date and stuff, but he tolerates him sitting there, ordering everything on the menu, talking into a camera all night to practice for his date. And then when the date happens and Kirk is nervous, he says, no, it's going really great. I think she likes you. Get back over there. Like, he doesn't go, oh yeah, you're probably right. I don't think she likes you. Just walk out. Just leave. Just give up. Like, no. He even gives him a pointer, on his own terms. Luke says he's doing 16 Candles impressions, and Luke asks him what point he's up to, and he's like, oh, you've got plenty of material left. Get back over there. Like, Luke occasionally is Kirk's biggest cheerleader, and he does it with this sort of, mean coach who's hardest on the A-string whatever attitude, where he makes fun of Kirk and Kirk takes it in stride and then keeps going, and that's just their dynamic, okay? Like, some people have mean humor, and that's not the same thing as being too mean to someone. He and Kirk have a really good dynamic, actually. Like, even when Kirk's about to make a big mistake, he's like, oh, I see Luke is single, and I feel like Lulu's smothering me a little bit. I want to go be single dudes with Luke. And Luke is like, hey, that girl is really good to you. Also, don't you dare hurt her. That's not just him making sure that Kirk doesn't make a decision that he's going to regret later. That's him being protective of Lulu, who is just as weird as Kirk. And Luke never says a mean word to Lulu either, okay? Like, I think the only example I can think of outside of some debatable scenarios with Taylor Dosey, the only townsperson Luke is ever openly mean to is Carrie, who is sexually harassing him, okay? Like, at that point, I'm not that mad at him for being like, what do you know, Carrie? Your kid is hiding under a chair somewhere. One, it was true. And two, she'd been sexually harassing him for 3 seasons at that point, not counting anything that might have happened before the show started. Like, Carrie was incredibly comfortable just going up to him and being super inappropriate. And Luke is usually just like, shut up, Carrie. Leave me alone, Carrie. That's not too mean. Somebody who's too mean to people who are just in his diner and doing fun town stuff would be way harsher to someone that, he's justifiably should be mean to, like Liz's friend Carrie. Crazy Carrie, okay? Also, Luke isn't the only one who calls her Crazy Carrie. The whole town calls her that. So, yeah, people who are like, Luke's too mean to the townsfolk, I want to see it. I don't agree with your examples, people. I mean, so Luke has these, rituals, he stands up at a town meeting, and he does it every year to talk about how silly the the Revolutionary War reenactors in Stars Hollow are because there wasn't a real battle, okay? Alright? He still goes out there while they're all standing there in the snow and says, hey, I have hot chocolate. And then, when some of them are like, do you have hot tea instead? Do you have this? Do you have that? He just takes their orders. And he's not at his cash register. He doesn't charge them for any of that. He just goes out there and there's still his fellow townsmen standing out in the snow getting cold. And he has to see it, so he does something about it. No, Luke not wanting to participate in and being vocal about how he thinks the town traditions are silly is not mean. That's honest. And he is still accepting of it. He is still sometimes even supportive of it. But he says when, and he says how, he's going to tolerate and participate in these things that are happening all around him that people are pressuring him to get involved in. So, yeah, I'll say it. Luke's not perfect. It pains me. I love Luke. I think he might be my favorite non-Gilmore Gilmore Girls character. But he's not too mean to the townsfolk. He's not too mean. So, this has been a shaky cam episode, just a little mini-sode of Gilmore Sisters, a Rant Podcast. I'm Crayle, one half of Phoenix Sisters Entertainment. This podcast is part of the Cereal Box Network, which has tons of geeky shows available. Just look them up on Facebook, really any of your social media, Cereal Box Network. Or if you look up the flagship show, Back of the Cereal Box, they link lots of other shows that you might be interested in. And, if you liked this, we're mostly posting on Facebook. Send us some stars or something. They're really cheap. There's a penny per. Or you can go to buymeacoffee.com/cerealboxpod if you want to support the podcast overall. Tell us what you liked, what you didn't like, and buy us a coffee. Yeah, I hope you all have a magical Stars Hollow week.